everybody, and welcome back to part 3 of the AI versus creativity, a crazy, stupid marketing emergent conversation. And I'm going to tell you what, folks, this 3-day in a row conversation thing has been very, very interesting because there's like so much space to get more ideas for what to throw in the conversation. And we only have 30 minutes again today. So what we're going to attempt to do is not to do too much over commentary on some of the things that we covered on days 1 and day 2, which was Wednesday and Thursday. If you're interested in those pieces, please feel free to go back to the YouTube channel and watch them. They are on the Crazy Stupid Marketing YouTube channel. But in moving the conversation forward, so we are moving to a place where we can actually make a choice about AI versus creativity. So I intentionally use the word choice and not decision because I feel like decision sounds like a permanent state and choice means I choose and then I choose and then I choose. And everyone has their own definitions of that, but that's how I define it. So that's where we're going to move towards today. First of all, we should also call out it is Halloween. So if you are watching this on not Halloween and you're like, why are people wearing costumes? It is Halloween. We're recording it. I am a Care Bear. My chest has gotten a little wrinkly over the day. I'm Cheer Bear, so I can bring the cheer to the AI versus creativity conversation. And Mike is bringing the competitiveness. Maybe, I don't know. I made that up and we didn't plan that in advance. So also, if you're like, who is Tracy and who is Mike, then go back to part 1 because I want to get right into the conversation for today. So Mike, based on where our conversation has taken us so far, where are you hankering to start at today?
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. Excited. Happy Halloween to you and great costume. I thought it was a lot of fun to dress up and hopefully we won't regret this in 20 years. So
it's permanently on YouTube until I delete it. So we'll see.
Right. Everything's saved, kids. Anything you upload, I don't care if it's to Snapchat or whatever you think is safe, don't even go there. How about let's start with that, right?
Make sure you feel confident you can own that in the future when someone's like, you were a Care Bear, and I can be like, damn right.
Yeah. Would your mom think twice of how you act, or what you show up as,
Right.
No, then it's okay.
Right. Be proud.
Yeah. Happy Halloween. And I first kind of wanted to start out with something a little spooky as far as, prompting. And I see a lot of people who are kind of diving head deep into prompts and creating prompt libraries. And on LinkedIn, we see a lot of people who are like, I've got this prompt, make a comment and I'll send it to you. And that's all fine and dandy, but those prompts are going away. Those will be dead as your CD collection in a few years. And the reason is because prompting is getting easier and faster than ever before. And the one thing I like to tell people is the best prompt for AI is asking it to help you to create a prompt based on your goal, right? So don't feel like you have to have prompting figured out to start using AI. The easiest way to get going is to start with the goal. What's the end, and work backwards, and then ask your AI to help prompt to create that prompt for whatever you're doing. If you're going to take it to Replit or to Lovable and build a little custom app, or into Photoshop or some of the other design tools, right? Veo 3, you name it. There's so many prompt examples that are out there where you don't have to really start from scratch, but if you do, it's not bad either. It's actually really quality prompts that can come out of there. So yeah, that's my scary thought for the day is all the time and effort people are spending on prompting and building up their libraries. Those will be gone. You won't even look at those again. So don't waste your time trying to organize and everything that down. Let's continue to push forward here.
Yeah. And I think when I think about this from an authenticity and creativity point of view, I also think using those libraries is like asking someone else's question. Right. So I'm not saying that not like thought and meaning and stuff went into the creation of those prompts, but when you copy someone else's, it's not really your question. So then are we Have we been programmed to then think someone else's question is better than mine? And how does that enable us from a curiosity point of view? I think a lot of times our like personal creativity is tied into our specific areas in which we are innately curious. And so then if we're turning off all of our curiosity in our practice because we're like, oh, we could just get a question from someone else, then we're not practicing creativity. And we can practice creativity with AI, but if we're not practicing that way, then we're not building the skills towards that. And even like, it makes me think, so years ago, before AI was in the like business mainstream, an employee of mine asked me if I could make a list of all of the questions that I ask. And I was like, first my brain said, great idea. And then I was like, except I can't do that. And she was like, why not? And I'm like, because I don't know what question I'm going to ask until I ask it. Right. So now you could actually use AI to like get your questions from your transcripts and make a library. But then even then, unless I know the context, unless I know the relationship and the purpose of the conversation, I can't guarantee that you should ask any of these questions. And so I think there's a lot of these like little stories where we're like, oh yeah, that's so clear. But then at the same time, we'll go and copy someone else's prompt library. I'm like, well, these are kind of the same thing. So let's make sure we're not doing either of those scary things.
Yeah, and I used to tell my parents too. It's not about knowing knowing all the answers.
Right.
It's about knowing the right questions to ask, right? Mm-hmm. And if you know the right question to ask, and you follow up with another question, I mean, it's like how do you date, right? Well, you ask questions and you keep asking questions and you follow up, and that shows interest and intrigue, right? And that's you talk about. When we're on sales calls, like the person doing the talking is not in control of the conversation, right? And so that's a way that salespeople can be creative in their communication is what kind of questions are going to prompt a deeper response, right? And Tracy, that's one of the things that you're so good at is just being present and coming up with what's the next thing somebody else might ask, right? And you do it. And it's very natural for you. It's not natural for everyone. I can definitely understand that. But part of putting yourself out there and continuing to push yourself to grow, it's like a muscle. It gets better, right? And I used to be the worst person on camera. Wearing glasses in a Travis Kelce jersey actually might help a little bit, right? If I'm cockeyed, sometimes these are polarized. I'm trying to read my screen, but I think authenticity really helps the creativity, right? In understanding where your strengths or weaknesses in and putting yourself in that situation.
Yeah. The like question asking piece always reminds me of iRobot. And the little thing is like, I'm sorry, my responses are limited. You must ask the right questions. And I'm like, oh, this is so good. Everyone should respond like that, because then we would be pushed into asking better questions. And asking questions is just like any other skill. You have to practice. And the more you practice asking the things that you're actually curious about, instead of like a list of things people are curious about. It's why on this show, I don't have like pre-formalized questions, right? Like, I don't know what I'm going to ask because I don't know what we're going to talk about.
I bet it's less stressful that way. That's for sure.
Although I have found for some people, it is much more stressful. So also interesting. It's an interesting perspective on authenticity because it's not the same for every person. It's about figuring out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So Mike, I do want to jump into the like AI evolution curve that you shared with us yesterday, right at the end of the show, so we can spend a little bit more time talking about this. So when we're moving this conversation now into like the future of AI, what are some things that we need to consider?
Yeah, thanks for sharing this. And this is a great graph that I created out of my own brain, and I used AI to help visualize it, right? It's not perfect. I've gone through 8 iterations back and forth. And so, don't hold me to this too tightly, but you can get the concept here is I want to take people back a little bit to understand that how AI started and to where we're going. And I think that will lay the framework for like, how do we prepare for tomorrow? And so I call AI 1.0. And it's all about information and predictive AI. That started back in the 60s or 70s. Nobody's really sure like when the start date of this was. And that's like computer learning, right? And so that's an iterative process on computers generating what comes next in the sequence. That was the early beginnings of AI. And we use that quite frequently, mostly behind the scenes. That's probably mostly military grade kind of research. In that sphere, it started coming to enterprise software, and we were trying to figure out, 10 years ago, how are we going to get all the programming languages to talk to each other? And that was the big challenge, right? And then AI 2.0 came out, which is generative AI. And you can think of generative AI as like your large language models like OpenAI's OpenAI or Gemini or whatnot. Everybody uses ChatGPT. And if you go back and look, OpenAI started as a company about 10 years ago. So they've been around for a while, and it doesn't feel like that, but they have been, and they've cornered the market on AI and LLMs specifically. And then what's coming next? And so if you look at the today kind of dashed line, the vertical line, it's not perfect. I tried to move that an inch to the left. Don't tell me why it was so difficult, but it would not move. So bear with me. I think we're getting towards the plateau of AI 2.0. People are still building a lot of 2.0. We're still kind of doing chat bots a lot, but we're starting to come in. You see the green line here in that part of that graph. That's autonomous agents or agentic AI. And what agentic AI, how that's different is that instead of having individual agents that go off and do your taxes or go off and does the research or go off and is your design team, those are AI agents. Agentic AI is different because it's more of a universal agent that runs your entire team for you. And agentic AI is built on context. And the reason I said yesterday is how words matter more today than ever before is because context comes from conversational intelligence. And if you think about the conversations that you're having today and yesterday and tomorrow, for robots to make better decisions based on what you think, they need to actually learn what you think and how you make those decisions in the first place. And so conversational intelligence we're at the very beginning of it, I believe. And we're just learning how to duplicate our own decision making in how that can help speed up the pace of business, right? And so I'll leave that for you here, and then I'll get your feedback after AI 4.0. That's super intelligence, right? And I put all these as waves. That's how they come. They come and then they go, and they'll come and they never really peter out. We're always going to keep 1.0 or fractions of 2.0 around, but when super intelligence comes around, it ain't going anywhere. I don't see that going anywhere. So that's a flat plateau. And the difference here is the time is on the bottom and the impact is on the left. So from a 0 that's supposed to be a 0.0 to a 1.0 scale of impact. Super intelligence is a 0.99, right? And if we look at where we're at today on the impact scale, we're probably about 0.25, 0.3 on an impact scale. And so if you think of how fast these models in this technology is moving, we're not 10 years away from super intelligence, which is what I thought a couple months ago. I'm guessing we're 5 years away from some of this. And you can see how much investments are going into these huge data centers, right? And what do you think that's for? That's so they can power the entire interweb, right? And so I tried to visualize this, and I really would love your feedback, see what lands and then what's wrong. Where am I going with this? Tell me, like.
Well, and I think there's a lot of directions that we could go with that. I think one of the things is that they commonly try to predict the future. And yet we know that humans are not fortune tellers. That every day we're creating a sales forecast or an AI expectations, or like, we don't know, right? If you took us like 10 years ago and asked us where AI would be today, most people would be wrong. Right? There'd be a handful of people who have a really good handle on it, who probably made some good predictions. But at the end of the day, first of all, we threw COVID in there, which nobody predicted. There's like, the human experience is inherently unpredictable, right? So this isn't a promise, folks. This is an extrapolation of current data that may or may not be true in the future. But I think the thing that is interesting to me about it is, one, we are constantly building new layers onto this, right? I think that's something we can all fairly solidly get behind, right? It's like when we invented concrete, right? And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, concrete's a really solid foundation. We're going to use concrete for like all the things to build on top of it. And I mean, I don't know that much about materials engineering, but as far as I'm concerned, still a lot of manufacturing goes on with concrete, right? Like there's things that we learn and then we build on them. We make it better. We make it cheaper. We make it more widely available. We do these types of things. The thing that came up for me as you were sharing about the autonomous agents, or the agentic AI actually in particular, was the context. And what I think is really interesting about context, like I've been talking to so many people about this week, right? Is like, how do we actually extrapolate meaningful context? Also, when we now are living in a world where there's like a lot of things that want to tell you the context, right? Like, again, if you use prompts as an example, right? Like that prompt might work really well in a particular context. But if that's not your context and you don't know that it's not your context, then you can use that prompt and think what it's giving you is for you, and it's not actually. So I think the concept of context is the next iteration of these things. And I mean, I've been having these conversations with so many people in my network. So I'm like, how could you do this? I don't even think we're very good at doing it intentionally right now as humans, right? So how do we design a system that can do it if we don't have good insight into what that is? And something that came up for me earlier this week too, is that we all are, I think book recommendations are like the best example of this, right? So you'll be in a conversation with somebody and then all of a sudden something they said reminds you of a book that you read. And then you're like, oh, have you read such and such book? Oh, here, you haven't? This probably matches with that. That book was not, it was information, knowledge that you held in your brain that probably you don't just go around and say that to everybody. Oh, have you read this book? Oh, have you read this book? Oh, have you read this book? No, it was like the situational context that called the knowledge from the like depths of knowledge up to the forefront of knowledge. And then there's also a layer of, should I share this? Right? Which we put on top of ourselves. So with books, at least in the circles I run in, is people share book recommendations pretty freely. But if it's something that you've done like personal research on, or you maybe is like more of a vulnerable personal experience that you have, that you may not share that, right? So even though the situational context is appropriate, humans have lots of layers of why they wouldn't share. And so, and a lot of those are also subconscious and or unconscious. So then we can't necessarily do meaningful things with that because we don't have that. When we think about that, all that ball of stuff that I just threw out into the universe and its relationship with creativity, and so we're talking initiated in its relationship to AI, but when we talk about that from its relationship to creativity, it's almost like those connections are created. If they're created in your subconscious, or they're just created naturally, they're not created with effort. Like I don't have to try to create that connection. The connection just happens. Then like, how does that's a thing that happens in the human brain. How does that manifest out in the world? How can we harness that versus control that? Because I think a lot of times we're talking about how do we control it or how do we duplicate it, right? And that's not necessarily the point, but how can we understand it to the point where we can harness it into things and say, we're currently living in a problem or a challenge that we have either personally or in our business. And if I can figure out the appropriate context, then I can get the appropriate knowledge instead of just gaining like a whole bunch of knowledge. And then what's the role of creativity in that? Now I just asked a whole bunch of questions. So I don't know if you want to take any of those things somewhere, Mike.
I mean, context is, and I often exchange like storytelling, right? And why are all the social media platforms going towards video? Because it's more, we're able to communicate better using video. We're better storytellers. People can not only
sometimes.
True, right?
I've seen some pretty bad.
You're a better storyteller. How about that? And then video is just one of the most flexible mediums for any and everything, right? To communicate a message. If you're not in person, this kind of goes into like in person. I think we've learned more than ever, especially surviving the pandemic, that in person is not a negotiable, right? It's something we need as humans. We need to experience other people's contextual living to know that, yeah, we're going through the same stuff sometimes. And you never know where somebody's at in their life or in their business or career. And the humanity side can't be replaced, right? And so one of the things I kind of think about when I start a signal caller is what can AI never be so that I can future-proof my business? And I came up with AI will never be authentic because artificial can't be authentic. So don't tell me artificial intelligence could be authentic intelligence. By definition of the term, it will never be authentic. And capturing customer testimonials is one of my favorite use cases because we'll be on a call and it would be like, wow, your product's amazing. It's been so great for our team. I can tell you that we've, our efficiency has gone up 2x. We're getting ready to bring on another person. And then all of a sudden, the marketer or the product team, your product manager on the other end, or your customer success rep on the other end is like, do you mind saying that again if I send a video team out to you in, 2 months, and then we'll shoot the video, we'll cut it, and then we'll finally put it to social media and our website in about 3 or 4 months down the road. And it's like, oh man, you don't get it.
No.
Right? It's like you missed the moment and you can't recreate authenticity either.
Yeah. I think this also ties into Ruth's comment/question here. Hi, Ruth. Thanks for joining us. My clicker wants to click it up. What do we understand by super intelligence now, and how might this change in the future? And Mike, keeping in mind that we probably have 2 minutes for this answer, I would love to cover now it won't go away.
You can keep it up because it's a tough one.
Yeah. Let's look at this from the concept of first of all, if we were talking about super intelligence from a creativity point of view versus what we might be saying about super intelligence from an AI point of view. I mean, all I ever can say is like, well, we know it's going to be different in the future. I don't know how it's going to be different, but like, what are some of the things that are a contributing factor or commonly associated with the concept of superintelligence today?
Yeah, so I think one of the best examples that I can give about where we're going is understanding where we're at with our devices, right? And you might not think that you'll have a phone in 10 years, because what super intelligence and agentic AI is really doing is it's trying to learn your life. That's what it wants to do. And
Creepy.
AI, right? OpenAI is creating wearables. There are a lot of agent or recording devices that are out there. We have smartwatches. Oakley has smart glass, or the Meta Ray-Bans, the Meta Oakley glasses. Those are all smart glasses with field displays on them. There's a couple other few competitors that are out there that the technology is embedded in our everyday lives, so that we're not necessarily tethered to a cell phone anymore. Because if you think about the display mechanisms of what we're consuming, we're not going to be staring down at screens anymore. We're going to be overlaying things in our field of vision, right? We're going to be, and I think about, what was the Pokemon Go or something
Yep.
that came out 15 years ago, and you see people walking through, the lobby and through
Running into things.
lobby, and I'm like, there's a car right there, watch out. And people are just out of it, right? But I think that was just a tip of the iceberg moment on how gaming and the gaming manufacturers are leading some of the technology adoption. And same thing on the military side. You see some of the incredible tech that comes out in I'm blanking on the name now, but um, it's all coming into a different field of display, right? And so smartwatches, wearable technology. I don't know much about what super intelligence will do. I just know it will be everywhere. And the more you let it in, the more you can leverage it. And so context and creativity, it's almost like it's your life co-pilot. It'll be like, hey, did you do this? Do you want to do this? And you'll just be like, no, 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 yes, 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 no, no, no. And then
Is
you just
this
have to run off and go do it.
is this Jarvis? Because it sounds like Jarvis from Iron Man.
Absolutely. And Siri might be the worst technology in our pocket right now. Like the transcription on Siri absolutely blows my mind how they can't get it right. But Jarvis is much more along the line of having a Jarvis in our pocket or always on, right? And then we get into, Wi-Fi and signals, and like how much is good to be flowing through our bodies. We're all
Right.
just a bunch of particles. Like, what are we doing to ourselves? And so I really see the future as being more safe spaces from technology, more off the grid, events, more vacations that are off the grid, more unplugging. And that's why community in building your local community will be so important, because I have all the technology that the West and East Coast does here in the Midwest. There's no reason I can't be a better service to my customers here in the Midwest than somebody who's out in San Francisco.
Right. Okay. Unfortunately, folks, we have reached the end of our time for this emergent conversation about AI versus creativity. And Ruth, it's like you knew. I did not prompt Ruth to put this in the chat, by the way, folks. And I do not believe I've met Ruth, not AI. Her comment about connections happen, creativity is about choices. I am going to call you to make a choice today. So we just spent 3 days in conversation on AI versus creativity. We shared some examples about how AI and creativity might seem at odds against each other. We have shared probably a lot more examples about how AI and creativity can work together. So today you get to choose, what relationship does AI and creativity have for you? Have in your life, have in your business, have in your relationships, have wherever you want to put them, right? Or not. Maybe not in your unplugged vacation, as Mike mentioned, but like, where do you want, what relationship do you want to choose for AI and creativity? Because there's infinite possibilities. We have, like, honestly, we have scratched the surface of the relationship between these two things in our last 3 conversations. And if you haven't checked out all of them, please go back and look at the different conversation every day. So new things that you can take away. But once you've tried on some of those things, what feels right for you? If we're going to take up Mike's human only opportunity to be our authentic selves, which is doing and saying what you would do or say, what is that? It may not be the same thing I do. It may not be the same thing that Mike does. And that's okay. That's not the point. But it's you making that choice for you and deciding what relationship is AI and creativity going to have in your life so that you can have both. With that, friends, this was really fun. Let me know if you watch this series and you're interested in us doing more of these, like 3-part emergent conversations, or even more parts, although we'll have to talk about that. They could go on probably forever. Let me know, and we can, like, there's always more topics to explore in emergent conversations. I encourage you to have emergent conversations with your community of people, because they're fun, but also because they give you more things that you can try on to figure out what is right for you. So with that, my friends, we will see you next week, and where there is only 1 episode of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show instead of 4, so you don't have to chase us around every day. But we will see you then. And until next time, permission to do you. Thanks, everybody.